In a quiet valley beneath the hills, far enough from the chaos yet close to a small school, Lee Teo-ka finally found a place to exhale. The wooden house wasn't grand. It didn't need to be. It was a symbol of something she hadn't had in a long time: stability. After enduring emotional storms and navigating the cold distance of her former in-laws, this new home offered not just shelter, but a sanctuary. The physical structure was modest, yet its impact was profound. For a single mother like Teo-ka, the value of personal space can't be overstated. It gave her and her young daughter a sense of autonomy. They were no longer under the roof of judgmental relatives. Instead, they were surrounded by the gentle silence of nature and the reassuring rhythm of daily life. But what really makes this move significant is how it reflects the quiet strength often required of women in transition. Teo-ka's father played a supportive role, helping not just financially, but emotionally. His decision to hire builders and source quality materials shows that care goes beyond money. It's about creating foundations literally and metaphorically for someone else's future. This isn't just a story about moving into a house. It's about reclaiming dignity. Too often, narratives about single mothers focus on struggle. Here we witness a moment of calm, of empowerment, of healing. And in that stillness there is hope, not just for Teo-ka, but for anyone seeking a second chance on their own terms. While the new home gave Lee Teo-ka a physical space to breathe, the deeper impact was psychological. For the first time in years, she could begin to imagine life beyond survival. With her own corner of the world, she was finally free from the emotional landmines of family conflict, free to focus on something that had long been neglected: herself, her daughter, and the baby she was expecting. This kind of autonomy is especially critical for single mothers navigating pregnancy. It's not just about having four walls and a roof. It's about having a space where one can parent with intention without constant criticism or interference. Teo-ka's decision to raise her daughter independently speaks to a quiet revolution, a shift from enduring life to building one. Yet with independence comes the inevitable weight of responsibility. Teo-ka's days were no longer dictated by someone else's expectations, but by the pressing demands of real-life logistics: food, safety, education, medical care. Though her father's help with the house was generous, it didn't extend to her day-to-day expenses. Every meal on the table and every doctor's visit now depended solely on her own hustle. Her pregnancy added another layer of complexity. At 6 months along, her energy was limited, her movement slower, and heavy labor increasingly dangerous. In rural communities where self-reliance is the norm, this can be especially hard. Farming, raising animals, or selling produce, these tasks don't stop for swollen feet or morning sickness. What's remarkable, however, is how Teo-ka continues to persist. She isn't waiting for rescue. She's strategizing, adapting, doing the math in her head while planning out every chore. Her life now revolves around careful balance between ambition and energy, between hope and harsh reality. It's easy to romanticize stories of resilience, but in Lai's case, the strength lies not in grand gestures, but in showing up every day despite exhaustion, uncertainty, and isolation. That's the real heart of this chapter in her life, the quiet fight to keep going, not just for herself, but for the future of her children. With each passing day, Lee Teo-ka faces the harsh reality that independence doesn't come without a price. Financial stress, once shared or ignored under the roof of relatives, now lands squarely on her shoulders. Rent may not be a concern, thanks to her father's support in building the house, but daily life still costs: groceries, medicine, baby supplies, and eventually school fees for her children. There's a common misconception that moving into a new home marks the end of a struggle. But for Tiu Ka, it's just another chapter, one that demands more grit and resourcefulness than ever before. She's turned to raising ducks and chickens, hoping the income from eggs or small sales can make a difference. Yet the math doesn't always add up, especially not when you're pregnant in your third trimester and physically unable to keep pace with the labor required. Pregnancy, while often romanticized, becomes a heavy burden in these circumstances. Tiu Ka can't work long hours, can't lift, can't risk injury. Every decision becomes a calculation between protecting her unborn child and putting food on the table. This isn't about laziness or poor planning. It's about survival with limited options. And in the midst of all this, the emotional toll lingers quietly. The fatigue isn't just physical, it's mental. She's raising a daughter, expecting another child, and doing it all under the lingering gaze of societal judgment. Every day, she fights not just poverty, but isolation, shame, and the weight of expectations she never asked for. Still, she moves forward. It's this quiet perseverance that defines Tiu Ka, not grand acts of bravery, but small, consistent steps in the face of growing odds. As Lee Tiu Ka tries to rebuild her life piece by piece, a new layer of complexity quietly shadows her: the emotional weight of social stigma. Being a single mother is already challenging, but being pregnant with her ex-husband's child while in a new relationship adds a dimension of cultural judgment that isn't easily shaken off. In conservative communities, reputation still speaks louder than truth. And Tiu Ka, despite her resilience, finds herself under that silent but ever-present microscope. People talk, whispers turn into assumptions, and assumptions harden into judgment. No one sees the quiet sacrifices she makes each day. They just see what they want to believe. Even her current relationship exists in secrecy. Though she receives support from her partner, their bond remains hidden, unspoken, and unacknowledged in public spaces. Why? Because his family, especially his father, a man rooted in status and tradition, would never accept a woman with such a complicated past. It's this tension between personal loyalty and family obligation that leaves Kie emotionally stranded, even as she builds a home of her own. Living in the hills provides some escape from the social noise, but it also isolates her from essential services. Medical care, particularly for expectant mothers and newborns, is limited, and while her daughter's school is nearby, advanced education or pediatric support is still out of reach. Safety in this context is bittersweet. She is physically safe, but emotionally vulnerable. And then there's loneliness, one of the most invisible burdens. Even with occasional visits from her partner, Sa spends most of her days in silence, trying to hold everything together. She cooks, cleans, nurtures, plans, and waits. Waits for the child to arrive, for the next harvest, for the moment society might soften its gaze. This is not just a struggle for resources, it's a battle for dignity. And as she navigates this terrain of expectation and hardship, Kei continues to ask herself, can she really do this alone? Though Litiu Kei now has a roof over her head, life is far from settled. In fact, her emotional landscape has become more uncertain than ever. Behind the wooden walls of her new home lies a woman caught between two worlds, hope for a better future and the echoing judgment of the past. The social stigma surrounding single motherhood in her community isn't just a passive undercurrent. It's a powerful force that shapes every interaction. Her pregnancy, especially under the complex shadow of her previous marriage, becomes a visible mark that invites assumptions. Even kindness from neighbors often comes laced with subtle judgment. And though she isn't entirely alone, her current partner, CEO Hung, does visit and provide support. The relationship remains unspoken in public. For him, this silence is protective. His father, Peter Nguyen, a wealthy and status-conscious man, disapproves of the relationship. To him, Thio Ca represents scandal, a potential crack in the polished image of a family built on tradition and hierarchy. Hung stands at a moral crossroads. He understands the crushing weight Tae bears, yet he's torn between love and filial duty. He wants to stand beside her openly, but he knows doing so would create ripples he may not be ready to face. Still, he returns again and again, offering food, quiet comfort, and stolen moments of peace. But Thio Ca needs more than secret support. She needs presence, consistency, and recognition. As her pregnancy advances and the demands of motherhood intensify, emotional isolation grows deeper. She's not just fighting to feed her family. She's fighting to feel visible, respected, and worthy of love. Hung, young, successful, and outwardly polished, finds himself caught in a deep human conflict. While his professional life is respectable, his personal life is complicated. At the center of the conflict is Lee Thio Ca, a woman he loves but cannot fully possess. And that truth haunts them both. He sees her clearly, a woman who has shouldered more than her share of the world's burdens, a mother who has raised not one but two children against judgment, poverty, and exhaustion. Her strength moves him, her quiet perseverance in the face of social shame, her refusal to give up, her daily acts of bravery. These are not the traits of a woman of ill repute. They are the marks of someone who has been let down by the system and by everyone else, yet refuses to let down her own children. Hung wants to be there for her. He does. He visited often, not out of pity, but because he found peace in the home she had created. It was modest but filled with warmth. He bought food, helped cook, and over shared meals they laughed. Joy returned for a moment. Peter Nguyen, Hung's father, saw Lee Thio Ca as a threat to his reputation, to his legacy, to the carefully constructed world he ruled by the rules of the old world. And yet Hung's parents eventually accepted her and even deeply loved Thio Ca. So Thio Ca remained in limbo, loved but not desired, supported but not protected. For all the progress she had made, her home, her independence, her motherhood, she was still waiting for something no one had given her: attachment. Yet even without reassurance, she presses on. She holds her daughter's hand, she prepares for her baby's birth, and she faces each day with quiet determination. Whether Hung will have the courage to stand by her side remains uncertain. But Thio Ca, she's not waiting to be saved. She's building a life, slowly, painfully, powerfully, one step at a time.
Hôm nay hãy cùng mình bước vào những diễn biến đầy cảm xúc trong câu chuyện của Thio Ca và Hùng, nơi không chỉ có tình yêu mà còn là hành trình vượt qua khổ đau để tìm lại hạnh phúc. Chúng ta sẽ cùng lắng nghe những tiếng lòng Xương Tích của Tiểu Ca hiểu rõ hơn về quá khứ đầy sóng gió của cô và cùng đón chờ những thay đổi kỳ diệu đang chờ đợi ở phía trước. Sau buổi trò chuyện với bố mẹ Hùng vào chiều hôm qua, Tiểu Ca ngồi lặng một mình trong căn phòng nhỏ. Lòng cô như dịu lại sau bao ngày tháng sống trong những hoài nghi và lo sợ. Những lời nói từ tận đáy lòng của ông bà làm cô cảm thấy ấm áp vô cùng và chất chứa đầy tình yêu thương. Cô từng nghĩ rằng sẽ chẳng bao giờ có ai thực sự mở rộng vòng tay đón nhận cô như một người con gái xứng đáng. Quá khứ của Tiểu Ca không tròn trịa và con đường của cô đi qua không phải lúc nào cũng trải đầy hoa. Cô từng là một người phụ nữ đơn thân, gồng mình nuôi con nhỏ, từng bị từ chối, từng bị tổn thương bởi những ánh nhìn định kiến và sự lạnh lùng của ngoài đời. Chính vì thế, khi cô đến bên Hùng, dù anh luôn dành cho cô sự quan tâm, che chở, nhưng cô vẫn luôn canh cánh trong lòng một nỗi bất an. Liệu bố mẹ anh có chấp nhận cô? Liệu cô có xứng đáng để bước vào gia đình của anh?